Well, it's a great joy to have Ben and Norah with us. And they're very dear friends. They're from Cluj, Napoca, in Romania. That's just not quite the central part of Romania, but more or less in towards the north of the country. And I'm going to ask Norah, just one or two questions if you don't mind. But perhaps, Norah, you could tell us how you came to know the Lord, how you came to saving faith.
Well, I grew up in a Christian family, and I was the youngest in my family. And it's hard to tell how all began, but I'm sure that it's because of my mom. My mom somehow taught me the fear of the Lord. And she taught me so well that though I grew up in communist time, I was taught in school that there is no God, that matter is everything. I never doubted God. It's interesting. So I think what she did, it's hard now to tell everything, but what she did well. She put a Bible in my hand, and when I started to read, I tried to read the Bible, and I succeeded. And I grew up in a church where we were not many children. It was a small church. But the children were involved in the church. We always had something to say. We were asked to say. There was a passage from the Bible. And we were small, but we all had to say what we understood from it. And that, of course, that encouraged us and made us read more and more, and it was like a competition. I don't know if that was good or not, but it helped me love the Bible and know the Bible. So later, of course, I make a commitment to God, and I wanted to be baptized, but it had a lot to do with my father. My father got very, very ill. And I could hear the doctor from the ambulance telling my mother that he won't make it and he has maybe 3 weeks to live. And as a child, I was 9 or 10. Of course, hearing this, I didn't know how to take it. Nobody paid attention to me that I was there and I heard everything. So I turned to God. And actually, that's how it started a very close relationship, because I really prayed. I prayed walking, going to school, prayed by my bedside. And I prayed for my father. And my father made it till 82. So we could see his grandchildren. And so that meant a lot. So I was baptized and a young student. And I have to stop. I think
For question one.
That's question one. Maybe question two. I can continue.
A lot of people won't realise we've been working in Romania nearly 50 years, but Norah was the first contact that SGA had. And perhaps you can just tell us a little bit about that, please, how
you can see how
developed.
Old I am. I'm history. Because when you talk about 50 years, that's history.
So nearly 50, I should have said.
Well, 2 years doesn't make great difference. I was a student. I studied languages, and I studied English. And actually, that was providential to study English. I wanted to study some Romanian literature, to be a teacher. And I didn't succeed to enter that university, but I went to the English department. And I really loved the language. And I remember I would translate small booklets. I would read whatever I found. And I was in my summer holiday, where a young man from the church, invited me to their house to interpret for a couple, Englishmen. They couldn't communicate. And this couple, they are called Trevor and Joan Harris. They were actually involved with were SGA missionaries. But of course, we didn't talk about SGA. I wouldn't have understood the whole concept. I mean, in that communist time, I just saw them, they spoke English, and I enjoyed speaking with them and interpreting for them. So they kept coming. After 2 or 3 years, I was asked by this gentleman to be his wife, and I wanted, of course, my English friends to meet Beni. And they came, it was in a different, my hometown, so they drove me to Cluj, where I studied. I was in my last year, and where my future husband was. So that's how actually we started a different sort of ministry. Because so far they used to come with goods, literature, encourage people, clothes, blankets. It was cold and people were poor in communist times. And to see a jar of coffee, I don't remember exactly how it looked, coffee 50 years ago, but it was very good. And it was something. But as they met Beni, Beni invited them, why don't you come with us for a picnic, not far from Cluj, and be together, fellowship. And then the young people there had questions for Trevor. And then I realized what a teacher he was all those years. And then SGA started the teaching ministry. And actually there were many young men in my husband's group in our home. And Trevor came and taught them. And Trevor brought other teachers from UK. And this went for a long time. And
so when we think of the church in communist times and today, there is the freedom that you longed for. Is there a particular lesson that God has taught you, comparing those difficult days with these days, that you could share with us?
It's very interesting because we didn't take those days as very difficult. We grew up in them, and it was somehow part of us, and it was so clear, this is bad, this is good. Communism is bad, Christianity is good. They were clear. And because of that, in a way, we were not prepared for freedom and what freedom brought. So I can say that we lost a lot. And here is Les and Tidbol, and this brother knows very well what that time meant. And I'm very happy to meet you here. But we were not prepared. Young people were not prepared. And what you have, you know, gradually, we got everything all at once, as if it were dumped on us. So that made things more difficult. A lot of Beni's disciples, they turned to business, maybe wanted a better life. But many remained in a ministry. And those communist years in the woods, my husband will tell you more, they prepared the next leadership. So most of the leaders, of course now they are in their late 60s and many early 70s, they were in a way trained in those years by missionaries from SGA and other parts of UK and Americans. So God really raised up a generation of leaders trained in communist times, in the woods.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I hope I